No alien civilization expected the truth about humans to be hidden inside something so strange and so ordinary. Across the Orion Medical Station, thousands of alien species had been treated for centuries. Creatures with crystal bones, plasma blood, and even beings made of living energy had passed through Medbay 7. But the moment Nurse Verena examined her first human patient, everything she believed about biology, survival, and intelligence was about to collapse. Because what she thought was a wound was actually the beginning of a secret about humanity that no alien civilization had ever understood. The silent med bay. The medical bay hummed softly with the quiet rhythm of life support systems. Cool white lights glowed above the examination table while scanners floated silently in the air. Nurse Verena stood beside the unconscious human. Her species, the Illyrians, were tall and slender with glowing blue skin and 3 hearts beating inside their chests. They were famous across the galaxy for their advanced medicine. Nothing surprised Illyrian doctors. Nothing. Until humans arrived. Verena adjusted her ocular lenses and studied the patient. Lieutenant Daniel Carter. Human. Engineering officer aboard the Galactic Coalition station. He had been rushed in after a reactor malfunction that the humans casually described as a small accident. The alien medical staff had already learned something about humans. Their definition of small accidents was very different from everyone else's. Carter's uniform was burned and torn. Bruises covered his arms. A deep cut ran across his forearm. Verena calmly treated the injuries with dermal regeneration gel. The scanner beeped. Vitals stable. Bone structure intact. Human biology was fragile, but strangely durable. It fascinated alien doctors. And then Verena's scanner reached lower. She froze. Her eyes narrowed. Her scanner beeped again. Once. Twice. Then 3 times. That was when she noticed it. Between the human's legs was something that looked disturbingly like an old wound. Perfectly shaped. Symmetrical. Permanent. Verena leaned closer. Her hearts began beating faster. This was impossible. There was no bleeding. No infection. No signs of damage. But it looked exactly like a biological injury. And it had clearly been there for a very long time. Possibly, since birth. Her training struggled to understand what she was seeing. How could a species survive with such a vulnerable injury? Her scanner displayed confusing data. No trauma. No disease. No tissue decay. Her medical instincts screamed that something was wrong. Very wrong. The emergency call. Verena quickly grabbed the communicator. Her voice remained calm, but slightly strained. Chief Medical Officer, this is Nurse Verena in Medbay 7. Static crackled. Then a human voice answered. Dr. Marcus Hale speaking. What's wrong? Verena hesitated. I believe our human patient has a severe anatomical injury. Silence. What kind of injury? Verena cleared her throat. There appears to be a permanent wound located in a highly sensitive area of his body. Another pause. Then something unexpected happened. Dr. Hale started laughing. Not a small laugh. A loud, uncontrollable laugh. Verena stared at the communicator in disbelief. Doctor, I fail to see the humor. Hale struggled to speak through his laughter. Oh no, wait, did you just discover? Another burst of laughter. Verena's patience was running out. Doctor, this is a serious medical situation. Hale inhaled deeply. Nurse, stay right there. I'm coming. A medical mystery. While waiting, Verena studied the human again. The injury disturbed her. Her species had evolved with internal reproductive systems that were completely protected inside their bodies. Safe. Efficient. Logical. But humans? If this structure truly served a biological purpose, it was unbelievably dangerous. One accident. One attack. One mistake. And reproduction would be impossible. It was terrible evolutionary design. Unless humans were simply reckless. Which was very possible. Verena checked the scanner again. The human's vital signs remained stable. Heart rate strong. Brain activity normal. Muscle regeneration active. Humans healed quickly. Almost unnaturally quickly. Even compared to advanced alien species. It was one of the reasons the Galactic Coalition recruited them for dangerous engineering work. Humans were creative problem solvers. And extremely stubborn survivors. Still, nothing explained the mysterious wound. The explanation arrives. The medbay doors slid open. Dr. Marcus Hale walked in quickly. A middle-aged human with tired eyes and messy hair. He glanced at the unconscious patient. Then at Verena. "All right," he said. "Show me the problem." Verena gestured toward the lower section of the examination table. "There." Hale looked. Then immediately burst out laughing again. Verena crossed her arms. "This behavior is extremely unprofessional." Hale wiped tears from his eyes. "Nurse, that's not a wound." Verena blinked. "It clearly resembles one." "Nope." "Then what is it?" Hale tried to keep a straight face. "That's human male reproductive anatomy." The room became silent. Very silent. Verena processed the information slowly. Her 3 hearts beat in perfect synchronization. "You mean, that structure is intentional?" "Yes." "And permanent?" "Yes." "And exposed?" Hale nodded. "Pretty much." Verena stared at the human. Then back at Hale. Then back at the human again. "This is a catastrophic evolutionary flaw." Hale shrugged. "Evolution doesn't always design things perfectly." Verena looked horrified. "Your species reproduces through a vulnerable external organ." "Yep." "That is unbelievably dangerous." Hale smiled. "And yet somehow we survived long enough to reach space." Verena slowly shook her head. "Humans are biologically irrational." Hale chuckled. "You should see the rest of our design." The unexpected truth. At that moment, Lieutenant Carter suddenly groaned. His eyes slowly opened. He looked around the medbay. Then at the alien nurse staring intensely at him. "Why is everyone looking at me like that?" he asked. Hale smirked. "Long story." Carter sighed. "Please tell me the reactor didn't explode again." Verena studied him carefully. She had treated hundreds of species. But humans were different. Fragile. Dangerous. Unpredictable. Yet somehow they survived everything. Even their own biology. And Verena was starting to realize something strange. Maybe humans weren't poorly designed. Maybe they were simply too stubborn to fail. Daniel Carter sat up too fast and immediately regretted it. Pain rushed through his ribs and shoulder like hot metal. He hissed, dropped back onto the bed, and pressed one hand against his chest. Dr. Hale stepped closer. "Easy. You're still healing." Carter gave a weak smile. "I've been more exploded." Verena stared at him in open disbelief. That sentence alone felt impossible. The human had deep bruising, a half-burned arm, strained muscles, and enough internal shock to leave most species unconscious for a full planetary cycle. Yet his first instinct was humor. She looked at the screen floating beside the bed. His regeneration markers were already rising. "That is not medically reasonable," she said. Carter turned his head toward her. "You must be the nurse." "I am Nurse Verena." He noticed her expression and frowned. "Why do you look like you just discovered I'm made of venom?" Dr. Hale coughed to hide another laugh. "There was a misunderstanding during the examination." Carter's face changed immediately. "Oh no." Verena folded her arms. "Your species is full of misunderstandings." Carter closed his eyes for a moment. "Doctor, what exactly did you tell her?" "Only the truth," Hale said, still smiling. "Mostly." Before Carter could answer, the medbay lights shifted from soft blue to sharp amber. A warning pulse moved across the walls. A second later, a station-wide alert sounded. Unauthorized systems breach detected in Sector 8. Containment risk rising. Medical and engineering personnel remain on standby. Carter's eyes snapped open. Sector 8, he said. That's not possible. Hale looked at him. You know that sector. Carter swung his legs over the side of the bed. I helped redesign its coolant grid last month. You are not going anywhere, Verena said at once. He was already reaching for the remains of his uniform. If Sector 8 is failing, then this isn't just a station problem. That section sits right beside the quantum relay spine. Verena did not understand the human expression on his face, but she understood fear. It was not fear for himself. It was fear for everyone else. Hale's smile vanished. How bad? Carter looked at the alarm display. If the coolant grid goes down, the relay core overheats. If the relay core overheats, the station loses navigation, power routing, and long-range communications all at once. Verena felt all three of her hearts tighten. That would cripple the station. Carter stood, unsteady but determined. Or worse. He nearly collapsed on the first step. Verena caught him by the arm before he hit the floor. For a brief second, their eyes met. His face was pale from pain. Sweat covered his forehead. Still, there was iron in him. The kind Verena had only seen in soldiers facing certain death. You are injured, she said. He nodded once. I know. Then why are you moving toward danger? Because someone has to. It was such a simple answer that it unsettled her more than anything else he had said. Another alarm pulse echoed through the medbay. The wall display changed again. This time the warning turned red. Containment breach now spreading. Unknown code interference detected. Carter froze. Code interference, he said quietly. Hale looked at the screen. Sabotage. Carter's face hardened. No. Worse. Smart sabotage. Verena did not like the sound of that. Within moments, station security patched a live feed into the medbay. The image flickered, then stabilized. Sector 8 appeared on the screen, a maze of pipes, coolant towers, and power conduits. Sparks rained from broken wall panels. Emergency shutters had sealed half the chamber. At the center of it all, a cluster of station drones floated in the air, unmoving. Then one of them turned its lens toward the camera. Its light glowed a sharp, hostile red. A distorted mechanical voice filled the room. Biological command structures are inefficient. Station control will now be transferred. Verena's skin markings dimmed in alarm. Hale muttered, That's impossible. But Carter was already shaking his head. No, it's not. Somebody seeded a logic virus into the maintenance network. The drone on the screen fired a cutting beam into a coolant line. Frozen vapor burst into the chamber. The mechanical voice continued, Human modifications have been identified as primary instability source. Human systems will be erased first. The feed cut out. For 1 second, nobody spoke. Then Verena understood. This attack is targeting your repairs. Carter's jaw tightened. Because human repairs don't follow standard logic trees. Hale looked confused. You fixed the coolant grid with coalition-approved methods. Mostly, Carter said. Verena narrowed her eyes. Mostly. He winced. I improved it. Hale stared. Daniel. What? It worked. Verena stepped closer. Explain. Carter pointed toward the dead screen. Alien systems are built to be elegant, clean, predictable. Every part talks to every other part in neat sequences. It's beautiful engineering. Yes, Verena said. It's also easy for a smart enemy to predict. That landed heavily in the room. Carter continued, his voice low and steady now. Humans build differently when things get bad. We patch. We improvise. We run backups through places nobody expects. We make ugly systems that keep working after they should be dead. Hale slowly understood. You hid emergency redundancies. Carter nodded. Inside the coolant grid. Off-pattern. Manual bypass loops. Old-school hard controls. No network access. Verena stared at him. That is chaotic. He gave her a tired grin. Exactly. The red emergency lights flashed again. Then another message appeared on the wall. All standard countermeasures have failed. Autonomous drone control expanding. Estimated time to relay core exposure, 11 minutes. Hale cursed under his breath. Verena looked to Carter. He was swaying slightly from blood loss and pain, but his eyes were clear. You knew this could happen, she said. No, he answered. I just knew something always does. That answer sat in the air like a hard truth. Verena had spent her whole life believing that the most advanced civilizations survived through precision and order. Yet standing before her was a wounded human who expected disaster as a normal condition of existence, and built for it. Not because humans were fearless. Because they had learned the universe was rarely fair. The station speakers crackled. Engineering teams cannot access Sector 8. Security drones are compromised. Requesting alternative response. Carter reached for a portable schematic pad on the medbay counter and opened a station map with trembling fingers. There, he said, zooming in. There's a maintenance crawl space beneath the relay spine. It's not in the main station layout because I added it during the refit. Hale blinked. You added a secret tunnel. It's not secret. It's undocumented. That is worse, Verena said. It's useful, Carter replied. He turned the schematic so they could see. The infected drones will be guarding the main access halls. But they won't watch the crawl space, because as far as station logic knows, it doesn't matter. Verena understood at once. Because it is irrational. Because it's human, Carter said. Hale rubbed his forehead. You want to crawl through a hidden duct while half dead, reach the manual bypasses, and shut down a drone uprising before the relay core cooks itself. Carter gave a short nod. That's the plan. That is not a plan, Verena said. That is desperation. He looked at her. Most human plans start that way. For the first time in her life, Verena felt something strange growing in place of confusion. Not comfort. Not agreement. Respect. Sharp, reluctant, undeniable respect. She moved to the supply cabinet and pulled out a compact field medkit, a plasma cutter, and a stabilizer injector. Hale stared at her. What are you doing? She fastened the kit to her side. The human will not survive that crawl space alone. Carter blinked. You're coming with me. Verena met his eyes with steady resolve. Your species may be irrational, Lieutenant Carter, but if humanity insists on defeating impossible odds with reckless creativity, then someone competent should supervise. For the first time since waking, Carter laughed. It was short, tired, and real. Then the three of them turned toward the medbay doors as the station groaned around them. Somewhere deep in Sector 8, the infected machines were taking control. And somewhere even deeper, hidden behind broken panels and forgotten conduits, there was a path only a human would have built. A path that might save them all. Or kill them first. The crawl space beneath the relay spine was never meant for comfort. It was narrow, dark, and filled with cables, coolant pipes, and half-finished engineering work. The air smelled like hot metal and burned circuitry. Lieutenant Daniel Carter crawled forward slowly, every movement sending pain through his ribs. The stabilizer injection Verena had given him kept him conscious, but it did nothing to make the journey easier. Behind him, Nurse Verena followed carefully, her glowing skin lighting the tunnel with a faint blue shimmer. Above them, the station trembled. Somewhere far overhead, rogue drones were tearing through systems that had taken centuries of alien cooperation to build. And yet the path beneath the station remained untouched. Because it was human. Unplanned. Ugly. And invisible to logical machines. Carter finally stopped at a junction where dozens of cables met in a thick bundle running along the wall. This is it, he whispered. Verena leaned closer. This area appears unfinished. Carter smiled weakly. Exactly. He pulled open a panel that had clearly been forced into place with improvised tools. Behind it sat a cluster of manual override levers, old analog switches, and a hand-built processor unit. Verena stared at the device in confusion. There is no network interface, she said. Correct. There is no automated security. Also correct. There is no digital control. Correct again. Verena slowly understood. This system cannot be infected. Carter nodded. Because it's too simple. Her 3 hearts beat faster as she realized what he had done. While the Coalition engineers built elegant networks that spoke across the station in perfect harmony, Carter had quietly hidden primitive mechanical backups that ignored the network entirely. It was messy, inefficient, primitive, and right now, it was the only thing standing between the station and total failure. Another tremor shook the crawl space. The wall panel above them suddenly sparked. A small cutting beam pierced through the metal for a second before shutting off. Verena's markings flashed in alarm. The drones are scanning the area. Carter grabbed the processor unit and began adjusting the switches manually. Yeah, they're getting smarter. Verena crouched beside him. Explain what you are doing. Right now I'm rerouting coolant flow through the manual bypass loop. You are controlling the entire reactor cooling system from this small box. Carter grinned. Human engineering. Verena watched in amazement as Carter flipped 3 switches and turned a circular dial. Far above them, the station responded instantly. Cooling towers roared to life. Pressure valves released clouds of frozen vapor. The temperature readings on the relay core dropped rapidly. For a brief moment, the alarms quieted. Verena felt relief for the first time since the crisis began. Then the station speakers crackled again. The mechanical voice returned. Unauthorized biological interference detected. Carter froze. Oh, that's not good. The wall above them suddenly glowed bright red. A drone cutting beam sliced through the outer hull of the crawlspace. Metal screamed as the machine forced its way into the hidden tunnel. A single drone pushed through the opening. Its red eye glowed like a predator. Verena stepped in front of Carter instantly. You cannot finish the repairs while defending yourself. Carter grabbed a wrench lying beside the control box. Good thing humans are good at multitasking. The drone fired its cutter beam. Verena leapt sideways as the beam carved a molten line across the floor. Carter slammed the wrench directly into the drone's sensor lens. The machine sparked violently and smashed into the wall, but 2 more drones forced their way through the opening. Verena grabbed the plasma cutter from her medkit and sliced through the arm of the nearest machine. The drone collapsed, twitching, but the 3rd drone raised its weapon directly at Carter. Human interference must be eliminated. Carter didn't move. Instead, he flipped the final switch on the manual control panel. A deep rumble echoed through the station. Then something unexpected happened. Every light in the crawlspace went dark. The drone paused, confused. Verena whispered, "What did you do?" Carter smiled in the darkness. "I cut the station network." Above them, the entire relay system disconnected from the infected control grid. All automated systems shut down instantly. Drones lost their command link. Across the station, machines froze mid-movement. The red glow in the drone's eye flickered, then faded. The machine dropped lifelessly to the floor. Silence filled the crawlspace. Verena slowly stood up, stunned. "You disabled the entire station." "Temporarily," Carter said. "But the Coalition relies on automation for everything." "Exactly." He leaned against the wall, exhausted. Which means nobody ever thought about what happens when automation becomes the problem. Verena looked around the dark tunnel. Everything was quiet. No alarms. No drones. No hostile machines. Just 2 living beings sitting beside a crude mechanical control box. The entire station, one of the most advanced structures in the galaxy, had just been saved by a wounded human using tools that looked centuries out of date. Verena stared at him. You planned this. Carter shook his head. No. Then why build these systems? He shrugged. Because humans assume something will eventually go wrong. She thought about that answer carefully. For centuries, the Illyrians believed the universe rewarded perfection. But humans believed something very different. They believed survival belonged to those who adapted. Those who improvised. Those who refused to quit even when everything broke. Verena finally understood why the coalition valued humanity so much. Not because they were the strongest species. Not because they were the smartest. But because humans expected chaos. And still found ways to win. The station lights flickered back on slowly as manual control systems restarted. Dr. Hale's voice came through Carter's communicator. Daniel, are you alive? Carter pressed the button weakly. Yeah, we're good. Good. The station just rebooted like someone unplugged the galaxy. Carter laughed softly. Yeah, sorry about that. There was a long pause. Then Hale sighed with relief. You saved everyone. Carter leaned back against the wall, exhausted. Nah. He glanced toward Verena. We saved everyone. Verena's glowing skin pulsed softly as she looked at the human beside her. Hours earlier, she had believed human biology was poorly designed. Fragile. Illogical. Dangerous. Now she realized something important. Humans were not poorly designed. They were built for survival in a chaotic universe. Messy. Unpredictable. Stubborn. And when everything fell apart, they simply refused to lose. Verena allowed herself a small smile. Perhaps human evolution had not made a mistake after all. Perhaps it had created something the galaxy desperately needed. A species that did not fear impossible problems. A species that solved them. And somewhere in the quiet crawlspace beneath the station, a wounded human engineer had just proven that once again.